Good day, grade 10 students. Welcome to English class. I am teacher Arnel, always ready to learn and to give you learning. Today we will talk about rhetorical questions. In your module, it was designed and written with you in mind. It is there here to help you write your rhetorical questions in argumentative text. Likewise, to construct rhetoric questions upon knowing the key elements of rhetorical questions, the scope of this module permits it to be used in many different learning situations. So, as we go on further, you will know better what rhetorical question is. So, to give you a little bit of hint about rhetorical questions, starters should be how would you? Don't you? Isn't it? Would you? Who? What? When? Where? Why? How? And what if? These are the tips how to locate or understand what really rhetorical questions is. Wouldn't you like to finally understand rhetorical questions? Of course you would. Or at least I'm guessing you would since you ended up on this page. You see that it was a rhetorical question itself. I wasn't really waiting for a response since the answer seemed quiet. Used rhetorical question work like that. They don't require responses. Make them perhaps the sassiest and most confident of questions. For this reason, when used effectively, rhetorical question can help to enhance your written the spoken rhetoric by emphasizing key points that resonate with your audience. What is a rhetorical question? Rhetorical question can be sarcastic, humorous, or reflective. They aren't used to elicit an actual answer, but rather to create a dramatic effect or to emphasize a point. For example, the rhetorical question, "It's awfully cold today, isn't it?" This question, also known as a tag question, puts emphasis on the fact that it's very cold. In most cases, it's not intended to draw a thoughtful response. So that is rhetorical question. Furthermore, below are several examples of common rhetorical questions that you've probably used or at least recognized. Who cares? Those are this expression. The following rhetorical questions are expressions of sometimes those who are trying hard to speak English. Who cares? How should I know? Who's counting? How many times do I have to tell you? Can you do anything right? What could be better? So those are just an example of rhetorical questions, common examples of rhetorical questions. As you can see, some of these questions might be asked defiantly, sarcastically, or even just to draw attention to certain facts. In each case, however, an answer is usually not expected. Rhetorical questions are basically a requirement for any effective speech, which is why you'll often find them sprinkled throughout political addresses. They help to make the speaker's point clearer, and they often resonate with the audience, prompting them to reflect further on an idea. So now take this example delivered by President Barack Obama in 2014. Are we a nation that tolerates the hypocrisy of a system where workers who pick our fruit and make our beds never have a chance to get right with with the law? Are we a nation that accepts the cruelty of ripping children from their parents' arms? Or are we a nation that values families and works to keep them together? By juxtaposing two very different scenarios, through striking imagery, the president was trying to remind the American people of their values and the policies he wanted and didn't want them to support. So, another way around, rhetorical questions in literature as well. So below are several examples of rhetorical questions from literature. The Merchant of Venice by William Shakespeare. If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die? And if you wrong us, shall we not revenge? These questions posed by the character of Shylock and the Merchant of Venice don't really need answers. The point is that the answer to each question above should be obvious. Another example of rhetorical questions in literature is from Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. What's in a name? That which we call roast by any other name would smell as sweet. Juliet's question of what's in a name is intended to make a point about how little significance a name should hold. And then another literature example of rhetorical questions in literature is Harlem by Langston Hughes. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Or fester like a rosor and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat? Or cast in sugar over like a syrupy sweet? The question posed in the poem by Langston Hughes also don't require responses. The speaker is simply pondering what happens to a dream deferred, using creative language and imagery to convey the possibilities. So now let us learn to use rhetorical questions. If overused, too many rhetorical questions might make you come off too sarcastic or even arrogant. But when you use skillfully and in combination with other rhetorical devices such as ethos, pathos, and logos, rhetorical questions can enhance your speech and writing by emphasizing key points. Also, we also have benefits of the rhetorical questions. Rhetorical questions are not a necessity, but they can be valuable. They can be used in many different ways, like to engage the audience, increase the variety of your presentation, influence and persuade the audience, subtly draw attention and emphasize specific points, introduce topics or ideas, make the listener think about certain topics. Then here are the lists or the numbers on how to use rhetorical questions in a speech. First is engage the audience. Ask a rhetorical questions to engage the audience and pose to allow them to think of an answer. This gets the audience to actively participate rather than passively listen as they create hypotheses or resolutions. For example, asking why is practicing mindfulness beneficial for reducing anxiety would be more effective than saying practicing mindfulness exercises can reduce anxiety levels because blah blah blah. Speakers may start presentations with rhetorical questions to increase the likelihood of the audience staying engaged. Then second one is personalize your question. Make the audience feel as though you are speaking to each member individually by using you and your. For example, asking, do you want to lose weight without feeling hungry? Would be more effective than asking, does anyone here want to lose weight without feeling hungry? Then number three is persuade the audience. To get your audience to agree with you, as a rhetorical question where the answer is clearly a yes. Once the audience begins agreeing with you, they are more likely to continue agreeing. You will be familiar with this type of persuasions in casual conversations. For example, nice weather today, isn't it? Another way to get the audience to agree with you is to show them that you're similar. You showed your listener that you have shared experiences and that you understand their problems. For example, we've all experienced being so stressed at work that we come home and don't feel like doing anything, haven't we? And then number four, evoke emotions. Make the audience feel the same way you do about something by asking questions that trigger emotional reactions. For example, rather than saying X has never helped our community, ask what has X ever done for our community. This will trigger a strong emotional response because the audience will come to the conclusion that X haven't done anything yet. And then number five, we also have emphasize a statement. After a statement has been made, use a rhetorical question to get the audience to think about that statement. For example, the amount of plastic in the ocean is rising at a considerable rate. How much damage will it take for you to help reduce it? Number six, predict the audience question. Think about your topic and audience when planning your speech. Try to predict the audience may want to ask. In your speech, use the predictions as rhetorical questions and answer them. For example, as a dog owner, you may think, what should I be focusing on to keep my dog healthy? The answer is providing your dog with the correct nutrition, and therefore food. You could also introduce one or more rhetorical questions at the start of your speech and explain that you will answer them during your speech. For example, in the next 20 minutes, let's explore the answers to these questions. Asking these difficult questions and promising you will provide the answers will increase interest and attentions. And then number seven, answer questions with questions. Answer a question, either an audience members of your own, using another rhetorical question. Generally, both the questions have the same answer. For example, have we met the targets again this year? Is the Pope Catholic? Try to make the second question unique and relatable to the audience because common examples can sound cheesy. Then lastly is consecutive rhetorical question. So it increased the impact of your arguments. Ask multiple rhetorical questions consecutively, each one more specific or more powerful than the previous. This way your content will have a greater impact on the listener. For example, isn't their skin lovely? Don't you think it looks really clear? Can you see the can you see any blemishes? Wouldn't you like to have skin like that? Or another way around is show conflicting opinions. Use rhetorical questions consecutively to highlight the complexity of a topic by asking questions in which the answers provide conflicting viewpoints. For example, how can we reduce the crime rate in the UK? Should we rehabilitate offenders? Should criminals be punished with longer sentences? Or should we create initiatives targeting at-risk children? If you start your speech with a technique, you have structured your speech or presentation around it. with each section addressing a different viewpoint. Show supporting opinions. You can also consecutively ask questions in which the answer provides similar viewpoints. This is similar to repetition, which is used to continually highlight an important point. For example, which company achieves over 90% in customer satisfaction? Which company provides one of the best employee benefits programs in the country? Which company scores highest in employee happiness and fulfillment? Of course, our company does. Rhetorical questions are an effective way to gain the support of the audience but ensure that you do not do your research beforehand. This means finding out who your audience are, such as their general views, attitudes, age, etc. With this information, you can plan rhetorical questions that will be appropriate and tailored to your listener. And that ends our topic for today. Once again, this is your teacher Arnel, always saying the world is a big classroom for you to learn. Therefore, don't stop learning because learning is everywhere. Thank you and goodbye.